Sometimes you get some odd things off of eBay, and this is one of them. I'll show this to you. This is what I got. Okay. And this bag of parts. This is a Tyrannosaurus skeleton from ESALink. I have no idea, almost nothing about it. So I read somewhere that it was like a puzzle skeleton. So it doesn't come with any instructions. What have I done to myself? Well, let's do an unboxing or unbagging, and let's see what we got here. So I've got this quirky thing here, and I'll get a better picture of it to show you guys. It's got some fun facts, and it says bring the puzzle to life. As a model builder, if I wanted to build puzzles, I'd get puzzles. But it didn't say that it was a puzzle when I got it on eBay. So we got this bag of parts. So let's see what we got here. We got this base. And if this base tells us anything, it's going to be a big kit. And let's see here. We got ribs. More ribs. I'm guessing leg joints. These look like hips. These look like feet. This looks like a head with a jaw. Spine. Spine may be part of the tail. Maybe more spine. That also kind of looks like hips and spine. Little vertebrae. And tiny T-Rex arms. So I'm going to have to do some test fitting. And I think I'm going to get some little sandwich bags to keep all the parts corralled. What did I get myself into? Anyway. Alright, well. There is the unbagging, such as it is. Next, probably clean the parts and then go from there. I'm not sure if this is going to get painted first or assembled first. It's a mystery. So my normal process is to clean the parts because there could be a residue from the release agent that's used in the injection molding process. And I've cleaned these parts, but as I was cleaning them, I noticed that they were individually packaged. So I don't know if that necessarily correlates to anything or not. But I'm not going to take any chances. So what I've done is organize these so eventually after they dry they're going to go into their individual little quart-sized hefty bags until they're ready to be assembled. I'm also noticing something in here that these parts are made of vinyl or a very similar material, and the problem is that some of the ribs look like they've gotten a little mangled or bent out of shape, and it might take a heat gun to get them back in shape. I'm not sure yet. That does give me some trepidation. I'm also very concerned that this particular material may not take a paint very well. So, again, I wonder what I got myself into. Real quick, I've got the parts dried over here. Let me go ahead and show you. I have these organized by the bags that they came in. I also found this online, which shows all the parts and approximately where they go. So I think this will help out. Like I said earlier, this is supposed to be a puzzle. Yeah, right. I forgot to mention that it came with these rods here that hold the puzzle up. I also broke out, and I'll show why I'm going to need this in a second, my heat gun, because these rib parts are just all kinds of janky, especially this one over here. So I'm going to need to use the heat gun to get these set up right, bent in the right position, and then maybe have a bucket of ice or something to cool them in so they keep their shape. So that's where we're at right now. I think what I'm going to do is build it without glue first, the whole thing, and see what happens and see how they fit together. And if they fit together good, if I'm happy with that, then what I'm going to do is build it in sections, like the head, the body, the legs, the tail, and the arms. Do those in sections, then paint them, and then do the final assembly after it's all painted. Gonna have to figure this one out. This, again, it didn't come with instructions, so it's gonna be a little tricky. We'll see what happens. So, assuming that you're not doing a snap together kit, doing test fitting is a really good idea. In this case, it was very helpful. I did learn a few things by doing the test fitting. One is that I will definitely be needing my heat gun to get some parts to lay right. I am also seeing that in order for this to stay together, it's going to need the super glue. I tried to put the whole thing together without glue, and it really just fell apart because there's nothing to hold the connections firmly together. So my next step, I think, is I am going to paint this before I assemble it. That, because there's just so many little nooks and crannies and little areas that I don't know that I'm going to be able to get to unless I paint them first. Maybe that's a mistake, but I don't think so. Normally, you want to avoid painting before assembling, if at all possible, because you'd be using the plastic cement. The plastic cement, what it does is it creates a weld that between the two pieces, and you want good plastic to plastic contact. On this, it's vinyl, so you're not going to get the weld that you would with plastic cement. So yeah, definitely going to go ahead, and I could be wrong, we'll see, but I am going to go ahead and paint first, then assemble. Prior to priming the parts, I decided to fix some of the parts that have gotten bent out of shape during shipping. And being that this is vinyl, you can use a heat gun. And so what I did, I had a heat gun that I heated the parts up with, and then I had an ice bath close at hand so I could hopefully cool those in place. So that mostly worked. There were still some areas that were not as cooperative as I would have liked to have been, but it's better than it was. So after priming this with the Tamiya gray surface primer, I found some places that I kind of felt like, I should assemble these now rather than later. And there are definitely some pieces that need to be painted before they're assembled, especially the skull. So I'm kind of feeling my way through it. Again, this did not come with an instruction set, and I really am just winging it. So we'll see what happens. So I started off with a base coat that's a mix of Vallejo model color ivory, Vallejo model color leather brown, and Vallejo model color desert yellow. Mostly with the ivory, and I mixed those up to create a wash, heavily watered down, so it could get into all the little cracks and between ribs and so forth. And I suspect that I will need a second coat. Oftentimes, when you mix things that thin, you need a second coat. And maybe you do a slightly different set of colors or different combination of the amounts of colors to get what you want. Because nothing in nature is absolutely uniform in color. So I'm going to let this dry and see what it does, and then we'll go from there. I did end up doing a second base coat, and for that, for the majority of it, I used Vallejo model color cream white with some of the Vallejo model color leather brown and just a little touch of the Vallejo model color desert yellow. And I think it was a good choice to do a second coat because it filled in the gaps, and I like the color that I ended up with. Next, I did a shadow wash or dark tone wash or whatever you want to call it, where I used Vallejo model color black brown and Vallejo model color black to make a wash to get into all of those shadow recessed areas. After this, I'll come over with a light dry brush tone, and that should finish it out. The last bit of painting was to do the highlights, and for that I went back to the Vallejo model color cream white, and again with the Vallejo model color leather brown. Just a little bit of the leather brown, mostly the cream white, to get a good highlight. Throughout the assembly, I've pretty much just let the model tell me what it needs. Sometimes I painted first and then assembled. Sometimes I assembled and painted first. It If this is supposed to be a puzzle for kids to play with, it's a huge pain. If I was a kid playing with this, I would be pretty frustrated with it. I think that's true with a lot of kits that are supposedly designed for kids, but you need some adult help, and even then it's a challenge. So it comes with these rods that look like they're supposed to screw in, but there are no apparent screw threads to put them into the base. And some of them, one I did screw in, the other I didn't, because as I looked at the picture, it looked like it went the opposite way. So, And getting this to stay on the stand needed some ugly amounts of super glue, but it is done. So, yeah, I don't like super gluing models to bases. I like to be able to take them off, but this just wasn't letting me do it. The ESA Tyrannosaurus skeleton puzzle is done. This is a vinyl kit, and vinyl's not my least favorite material, but it's certainly not my favorite. And it was not without its problems. Used a lot of super glue to get it put together. You know, I think that they intended this as a kind of a kid's toy, but I think kids would have a lot of problems, and that's common with a lot of kits designed for kids that I see. I have to wonder, did they actually like test build their own kit? Because sometimes I don't think they did. The paint job I'm pretty happy with. It's pretty much what I was going for. So I'm happy with the paint job. There was a lot of super gluing to hold this to the base. I normally don't like gluing models to the base because I like to be able to remove them if I need to move or something. Not all the parts fit as nicely as I would have liked, but here it is. It's done. So I've got one more skeleton that I'm going to do that's a Neanderthal man. And I believe that's Lifelike Hobby, I think, or something like that. So we'll see how that turns out. And it comes with a figure. And I think I'm going to start moving into painting prehistoric figures here. I think that's the next step. Anyway, here it is. Our ESALink Tyrannosaurus skeleton puzzle. Stay tuned for more adventures.